Looks like you're going to the Shadow Realm, Jimbo.
They say you'd have to be crazy to venture there. That even the bravest junglers with top main pre-mades would barely even consider it. And most of them don't ever make it out alive. But who needs them? They didn't grow up around these parts. They have never tasted the bitterness of a 58% win rate counterpick. Haven't ever shed a tear over the lane being frozen when you've no control over it. But I stuck around. I stayed persistent. I learned the ropes the only way I could. The hard way. And if you too stick around, well, if you're lucky, there might be some hopes for you yet. So, you actually managed to find your way to the topmost lane, huh? Well, congratulations! Or something. I mean, we are in the Shadow Realm after all. Yeah, I myself personally have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the top lane. This lane really feels like a place where you either win versus your laner really hard, or gets totally dunked on. Or, once in a blue moon, you get a game where neither you nor your opponent feels like playing aggro, and you simply accept each other's presence and AFK farm while the rest of your teams just run it down with 11 kills or deaths each. But if I were to advertise the best thing about this lane, it would be this: the champions. But sadly, there is also a worst thing about top lane: the champions you lane against. Yeah, if there is one lane where counterpicking really hurts, it's here. Playing a tough matchup here is hard, because most of the time it will just end up with your laner freezing the lane, and basically saying, hey, you know what farm you like so much? How about finding a new thing to like? So if you get the chance, it might be better to be on the winning side of counterpicking. Anyways, let's get into the champs for a little bit. If I were to narrow top lane champions down to two types, I'd have to go with fighters and tanks. This place is where all the badass, angry and beefy boys and girls hang out. Melee range as well as champs that can take a few hits are plentiful here. So, what's the deal when playing a tank? Well, it's rather simple really. You're pretty much a support, but on steroids. Tanks are meant to stay in the front. They use a ton of crowd control on the enemy team and will typically not get any kills themselves. Makes sense really, since tanks almost always entirely focus on building armor, health and magic resist. The only damage that tanks generally have are their base damage from spells, or the occasional extra damage that scales with resistance stats or HP. So in summation, as a tank, you are pretty much the big fella your team hides behind in teamfights. But wait, for there is another. Top lane is also the home to the more aggressive fighters. These guys are pretty similar to tanks. Big, burly, scary, but they focus less on building just resistance, and focus more on murder. Most bruiser/fighter items often have at least a little bit of HP, armor or magic resist. I mean, these guys are often melee champions after all, so they need to be able to take at least a few hits. But instead of strictly stacking defenses, they also build attack damage. So in my experience, there are two types of top laners. The ones filled with aggro and bloodlust that play fighting champs like Darius, Teemo, Garen, Olaf and so on. Or the calm and zen players who play the tanks. But there is really a third sub-breed of the fighting style top laners: the split pushers. Split pushing is a secret jutsu that some top laners like Illaoi or Yorick are specialized in. These guys operate kinda like other fighters, with more damage and such in the build. But instead of tunnel visioning for kills around the map, they just split push a lane and take down as many turrets as they can. And if someone is dumb enough to try and stop them, they are just dead. And it's all because of this beautiful item. Yeah, Hullbreaker pretty much just makes you OP if you don't play with your team. which one might think sounds terrible since this is a team game. And you'd only be partly right. Because yeah, sometimes it's good even for split pushers to also fight with their team. But let's say the entire enemy team are fighting the rest of your team for a dragon down here. If you play a split pusher and the fight drags out, then you can easily just push down several towers top lane instead. Even if your team loses the fight, you can still get a lot of golden pressure from those towers you killed. And even if one or several enemies disengage from the dragon fight in order to stop your split pushing, then you just gave your team a huge advantage for the dragon fight since we are now at least in a 4v4 situation. But in my experience, split pushing is a lot harder than it looks. It's not really about running it down top lane. It's more about playing both side lanes or sometimes even mid lane depending on where the enemies are located. Which again, is easier said than done. So a lot of top lane focus is put into farming and trying to stay one step ahead of your opponent. If you don't, well, they can make your life pretty miserable for the rest of the game duration. You will be playing alone most of the time, and friendly ganks only exist in your dreams. Apparently, people don't like the Shadow Realm. So, if you see yourself playing as the powerhouse of a team, and if your dream is to be a raid boss at the end of a match, then yeah, top lane might be your best bet. But on the other hand, this is also the lane where you learn how to get ruffle stomped the most. So, good luck with that. May your waves be unfrozen and may your junglers find you. Good luck and have fun. Hey, Sisox the Casual here. I just wanted to take a moment here to talk while Ornn is busy bonking on a target dummy. The channel has grown a bit lately. Now, I don't want to sound like a big-headed, wannabe big-shot YouTuber, because let's face it, I'm not. But I didn't even get the chance to say thank you for 100 subs before 200 was already reached. So I guess I'm saying thank you now. You guys have been really great these last couple of weeks, and I really appreciate that. And I've got several video ideas that I'm working on at the moment, so I guess just stay tuned for that. Thank you for liking, viewing, commenting, sharing, and you know, just being awesome in general. Next role will be the support role, and I'll see ya then. Bye bye for now.